And we're live. Welcome to episode 4 of Press Pause with Vig Villain, last week's gaming news. Sundays at 6 p.m. ish. Always at 6 or after, never before 6. But we're going to nail down that time once we start having some viewers. That's right, Press Pause with Vig Villain, the only show where the expectations are lower than the view count. So that would be negative. What's up, though? I'm very excited to talk about video games to any YouTuber that stumbles across this channel. Been playing a lot of interesting games this week. It's been like a smorgasbord week for me. I've been kind of dipping into a lot of different games. As usual, gaming with friends occasionally in the evening, playing things like Rocket League, Modern Warfare 2, Halo Infinite, enjoying those quite a bit. You can see here I've got Days Gone going. This is a game I put a few hours into back a while ago. Not when it launched. I did not play it at launch. I think I first played it on the PS4, though. I did get to it right before I transitioned over to the PS5. Got to like the third encampment, Iron Mike's, if you've played it. So maybe, I don't know, 5-6 hours in, maybe a little deeper, and just kind of fell off it. I enjoyed it for what it was, but the story, I think, is a real weak spot for this game. The story and the character interactions, almost on a technical level, because I think the acting is pretty good. I think they've got a pretty good voice cast. But it seems almost like the technical direction that they were given is a little rough. There are a lot of sequences where obviously a lot of times in VA work, like the actors are not in a room together, not necessarily, right? They're recording their lines. It's getting edited together, especially in games where those conversations can happen, dynamically based on player input. But this one was really obvious where sometimes it felt like one character's direction was like, hey, talk calmly like you're sitting down in a room, and the other character's direction was like, you should be screaming like you're going 80 on a Harley in the apocalypse. And so it's really, I don't even know the right word for it, but it's like disconcerting, I guess, where the characters, they seem to be talking past each other and almost like in different places and at different times. It was odd. On top of that, some of the dialogue is really cheesy. I think the premise is awesome, right? Doing an open world kind of zombie game, but giving the character not just like an everyman quality, but making them a bit more of an eccentric kind of outsider type character, like a biker. You probably could have got the same effect by giving them almost any sort of strange occupation, but it just gives it like a little flair, something a little bit interesting, and kind of gives you a reason for him to sort of be more of a loner than others might be in this sort of apocalyptic situation. But yeah, love the open world, love the gameplay. The shooting is actually quite nice. Really enjoy like trying to like clear out the nests. I've tackled a couple of hordes now, just 2. I'm sure they're pretty low level based off like what I've seen on other videos where they're fighting like hundreds and hundreds. I think maybe like the hordes I fought have been like 100 max, maybe 50, like not that big, but still with the tools I currently have in the game, they've been work. So yeah, on this second go through, I'm getting a little bit further. I'm kind of reevaluating the game and kind of how I think of it. Obviously the PS5 upgrade is primo. Like the game runs smooth. There's none of the technical difficulties that clearly marred this thing at launch. And the more I play it, the more I'm excited to see what Bin Studio comes out with next. Whether or not it's a sequel to this game, I would love to see them tackle another open world game, especially I think their third person shooting in this is awesome. It's super fun. The horde mechanic is very interesting. I think with better narrative and maybe better story design, Bin could really come into their own on the next game. Obviously, this one, critically and commercially, was not received as favorably as some of the other PlayStation first-party titles have been and are kind of expected to be. So there's that on this game. I've also been playing the new DLC that just dropped for Forza Horizon 5, the Rally DLC. I don't remember the specific name of it, but I'd bought the pass when the game came out, so just jumped right into that, into the Badlands. Loving it. Forza Horizon 5 is such a stellar racer, or arcade racer, right? It's sandboxy, it's open world. You're not getting like a sim. But it's a blast and a half to play. I think that really helps with my enjoyment. Some of the sims can be a little too technical for me. I've got a wheel that usually collects dust, and it's probably one of my silliest expenses. But I will probably dust that off maybe for the new Forza Motorsport, and we'll see if I can get back into sim racing at all. But yeah, been playing that. That's been a blast. Dipping my toes into a few other things. I think I'm going to sort of pause everything else though and jump into Quantum Break this coming week. This is going to we're getting a jump start on what next week is going to be. But I saw that Quantum Break is leaving Game Pass. A little surprising since it's an IP Microsoft owns, but I'm sure there's something to do with the developer Remedy not being a part of Microsoft, and maybe there's something in the contract where they either had to pay more or pull it. So it looks like they're pulling it. Surprisingly, I'd never gotten to Quantum Break. I'm a huge Alan Wake fan. I really love Alan Wake. I even loved American Nightmare. And I really enjoyed Control as well. Control is another great game where I think they really elevated, especially like in the terms of the gameplay itself, like the gunplay. So yeah, I really want to knock this one out before it leaves Game Pass, because yeah, I'm a huge fan of the other stuff Remedy's done. I played the first Max Payne. I never played the second or third. I don't even think they did the third one. I think the third was done by another studio for Take-Two, right? I could be wrong. Comment on me if comment below if Remedy did do Max Payne 3, but I think they only did the first two. I played the first one way back in the day on Xbox. Yeah, the original Xbox. I did like that game, but Alan Wake and Control are, captured a little more of my heart, especially Alan Wake. I think Alan Wake is one of my favorite stories from a video game. Maybe like one of my favorite stories. I really just love the concept of that, and I do like how they expanded on it in Control. I'm interested to see kind of where that goes next, but want to get to Quantum Break next week before, I think it's, people are estimating it's probably going to leave April 15th, but I want to jump in there and see what that's all about. I've heard such mixed things. It's always been one of those games I've been like, oh, I'll get to it. It's been installed on the Series X forever. I've never even booted it up. But I think this week is going to be the week we knock it out, only because they're threatening to take my toy away from me. But yeah, that's a little bit of what I've been playing and kind of what I'm looking forward to playing. Before we jump into the news, I want to do something I haven't done in the original episodes of this, but just sort of highlight some games I've been kind of eyeballing that are either coming out this month into April, or just something I'm looking at that's coming down the pipeline. It's not an exhaustive list. There's like a billion games running through my mind that I'm looking forward to. Off the top of my head, I'll say like the number one game I'm looking forward to this year has got to be Starfield. Super stoked for Starfield. On the multiplayer side, for something to play with friends, I'm really hopeful that the finals is maybe that next like shooter that can kind of pull us in for like long-term weekly sessions where we jump on. Not sure. I've heard kind of mixed things from the reviews from streamers and journalists that were able to get in on that early period with it. So we'll see how that turns out, but that's another one I'm pretty hyped for this year. Spider-Man 2 is going to be dope. Miles Morales has been one of the best games I've played on PS5 so far. Really loved that game. I actually think I liked Miles Morales more than the initial Spider-Man, and I think part of that is the truncated nature of Miles Morales being a much shorter experience really lent itself to more feeling like a comic book to me. More of a very tight narrative, very focused. I did almost no side missions in Miles Morales. I was blowing through the story. I think I beat the game in 2, maybe 3 sessions. Like long sessions, obviously, I have like 5-6 hours at a time, but really powering through that game. I think it was an 11 or 12 hour experience, but I loved it. And I'm hopeful that Spider-Man 2 is gonna, hit that same level as the original Spider-Man, and then Miles Morales. I think having both of them in the game, I'm hoping they're both playable. I'm excited to see where the narrative goes. But yeah, like Miles Morales, I think was so good, even more so than the first Spider-Man, of capturing that comic book feel. And I do think part of that is the shorter runtime made it feel more linear, more narrative focused. Whereas in Spider-Man, it's a pretty cool story. You're running along, but then all of a sudden you get stopped to fucking to chase pigeons. It was that they kept taking me out of the story when they're like, hey, you know, this villain's broken out of this, or you got to go do this. Oh, but do you mind catching like 45 loose pigeons? Yeah, I kind of mind. I don't have time for this. I don't have time for this, nor do I have time to find 75 JanSport backpacks that I left webbed to walls all over the place. And they just have like postcards and shit in them. So I don't know why I'm like angry at Spider-Man. It is a game I loved. I get annoyed sometimes with like the little side quests and the trinkets some games put in. I don't like when you're playing an open world game and they're like, by the way, collect 50 doohickeys and you'll unlock the color green. And also collect 62 doodads and you'll unlock the color blue. And it's just, that stuff frustrates me. Like, just let me, it's not fun, I don't think. I'm sure they have data. That's a word I never know how to say. Data. Don't worry about it. If I'm saying it and it screeches your ears, we've got to move on from it. Guys, we can't dwell on the data debate. We've got to move on. But what was I saying? I'm so off track tonight. Oh yeah. I'm sure they have the data that says players love these collectibles. But I'm just not one of them. I'm gonna play your game anyway. I'm gonna skip all that junk, unless you're Control, and even then I skipped a bunch. But man, I do love reading all those little notes. I love the way I know it. I'm pretty sure it's like based on like some website or forum that sort of has like a mock secret bureaucracy, government agency that handles the paranormal and these unexplained activities. So I think that's a lot of the inspiration for the notes around the oldest house. But I loved that in Control. That was one where I was like, I'd be in one little space, just circling, just reading office pages. Loved it. Anyway, I got so off track, guys. How deep into this are we now? We're 17 minutes in. I haven't even y'all need to focus. I need y'all to focus, quit chasing these rabbit holes. All right. Yeah, let me just show you some games, right? So I mentioned Starfield at the finals. I mentioned Spider-Man 2, being psyched for those games. Tears of the Kingdom, really pumped for that game. But I want to talk about a few smaller ones that kind of caught my eye that are April. So far this year, a lot of the big games have missed me. I'm not huge on remasters and remakes. I just like when I see those giant budgets going towards like, let's remake this classic. It's just like, why, dude? You don't need to remake it, right? Like, I love Back to the Future. I hope to God they don't remake Back to the Future. We don't need it. Not when you can already watch it in 4K. So like some of these games, man, it's just like, I don't care. And on top of that, I'm one of the dozens of people in the entire world that I don't care about Resident Evil. I've never played a Resident Evil. It doesn't do anything for me. That type of horror and just like everything I've seen from trailers or gameplay, it's not really my bag. RE4 is bad. I don't know. People seem to be loving it. I'm not a Resident Evil guy. So a lot of games have been missing me. That's kind of one of the reasons I'm going back into like Days Gone and I'm looking at Quantum Break, is I'm kind of waiting for like this summer when like Tears of the Kingdom and Final Fantasy 16 drop, and then in the fall with these other games. I'm kind of waiting to get hit, but there are a few coming up here in April that I have my eye on. I resisted buying Sifu again, which just dropped on Xbox. That's been out on PlayStation, came to PC, came to Switch. Now it's on Xbox. If you haven't tried it, if you're like an Xbox player and you haven't got around to it yet, or if you're on one of the other platforms, I highly recommend Sifu. Really, really love that game. Almost bought it again just to like replay it, but it's like, that's stupid. I have it on PS5. I can play it there. I don't need to buy it on Xbox. But Sifu is killer. Highly recommend it. But a few other games that are coming here in April that I wanna kind of take a look at. This first one that's kind of got my eye, it's about to launch. I believe it's I should have looked this up. I believe it's launching like this week, maybe on the 4th. But Meet Your Maker. This is a smaller game from Behavior Interactive. They made like Dead by Daylight, but this game to me looks very interesting. It's more budget priced, $29.99 USD. But it's going to be single player or co-op, where you run through these dungeons, right? And you're trying to get protected material in these dungeons to strengthen your build and your resources and all that. You can go it, like I said, single player or co-op, but the kicker is other players are building these dungeons. So you have a building game designing these sort of like labyrinthian, like, gauntlets for players to run through, and then you can also run through them. To me, that's a super cool idea. The fact that it's coming in a little bit cheaper for like a first-person shooter, a little bit of pause maybe. I hope they're able to nail like gunplay. It seems like they're doing a lot, is what I'm trying to say. It seems like they're taking on a lot's happening. I'm hopeful they can pull it off in what is clearly being marketed as more of a budget title. So with it coming in at 30, fingers crossed, right? I feel like I would have had a little more confidence at 50 just as a buyer, but I'm going to wait for reviews. We're going to see what it is. But this game looks really sweet to me. I don't know why I'm focused on price all of a sudden, but I've been really thinking this week about like how they price games, what you can tell from that. It's been kind of a topic I've been delving in, and it keeps bleeding over into everything I talk about because I am insane. But look how sick this looks. Anyway, that is that game. I just wanted to touch on that real fast as something to look out for that's coming soon. In addition to that, another one that I think looks pretty interesting is we've got the last case of Benedict Fox, which is coming to Xbox Game Pass. Actually, I should know like if these things are exclusive or not. I think it's going to be on other platforms, but I could be wrong. I know it for sure. It's coming to Xbox Game Pass, which means it'll be on Xbox and PC. This game looks brilliant. I love the art style. Like all about this art style. It almost reminds me of like Lovecraftian Ori. Like just the color palette, the mood. It's gorgeous. I really enjoy this. I'm looking forward to it. It looks like it's going to be kind of an action platformer. I'm guessing it's going to be Metroidvania-ish. We are having trouble with words today, girls and boys. But yeah, this is some developer footage that I pulled up. I'm just going to skip ahead because I feel like I wanted to just get a little bit of combat in here to look at it. Maybe a little bit of the actual like gameplay itself. And of course it goes right into the camera pulls in for a cutscene as I say that. Oh, okay. There's a brief one. But this looks great to me. I've been really excited. Everything I see about this pulls me in a little more. I like the sort of ghostly gothic, southern gothic horror vibe almost to it. Very stylized, very cool. I like these kind of platformers. See what I'm saying right here? Like with the kind of the lighting effects and the, I don't know, I just get kind of an Ori vibe from it. I don't know, like Ori's kind of edgy emo older brother maybe. But it looks good, man. It looks really cool. I'm excited to see where this goes. And yeah, it's coming at the end of the month. April 27th, I do believe, is when we are going to see the last case of Benedict Fox. Now, I do have issue with that name. Calling it the last case of Benedict Fox. How are you going to do a sequel? Just kidding. He's got one more case? Or is it going to have to be a prequel? The penultimate case of Benedict Fox. These are not great names now. You've kind of written yourself into a corner with the title of the game. I'm such an idiot. Yeah, so that's another one I'm pretty excited for. Just want to touch on that. And then we're going to cut over here to one that's coming. I don't know when. I don't think there's a release date yet. It's announced on Steam going into early access. And I just want to say, I don't like early access. I mean, I like the concept of it. It's cool if you're into that. For me personally, I don't want to beta test your game. Not because I don't think it's cool to see that side of games, but just because, I don't know, it kind of ruins it, right? You play this game and you're like, it's okay, it's meh. And then they take all the feedback they get for like a year and a half. Some of these games are in early access for 2 years. They take all that feedback. They make a banger game. And then 2 years after you put down this meh game, it comes out and it's got like rave reviews. Everybody's talking about it, but you feel like you've already kind of gone through it and you're not, So I'm not big on early access, but this is coming to all platforms. This is from the makers of Hyperlight Drifter. This is Hyperlight Breaker. Now, if you've never played Hyperlight Drifter or never seen it, it is a 2D game. It's beautifully animated. It has a very similar color palette to this, but it's 2D pixel art. It's a kind of like a hack and slash. You have like a gun. I played it on the Nintendo Switch. Very cool little game. I enjoyed it. But this is quite a step up in terms of presentation and scope, it looks like. Very excited to see this. What happens here with Hyper Light Breaker. Yeah, it just looks like they're really bringing us something pretty cool here. A lot. It kind of reminds me of like the way Risk of Rain stepped up with Risk of Rain 2, and what that turned into, at where it went 2D to 3D, and it was kind of a pretty big build up. So those are just 3 games that I'm kind of eyeballing. 2 of them are out in April, Meet Your Maker, and at the beginning of the month, The Last Case of Benedict Fox right in the last week, and then Hyper Light Breaker. Who knows? Coming to early access soon, full release, I don't know, but I saw that trailer and I was just like, we got to talk about it. We got to talk about it. Because it's been kind of a boring news week, in my opinion. Like I've said before, I don't want to cover every single headline each week. I want to mainly just talk about things I find kind of interesting, centered around games or the industry. And this week's been a little bit light. We did see some U.S. Congress people taking issue with Sony's behavior in Japan as far as the video game marketplace goes. If you don't know, the United States and Japan are currently in trade negotiations, and this got brought up by, at first by the senator from Washington, and then in a letter written by 11 Congress people, senators and members of the House of Representatives. And it basically was like, hey, Sony has 98% of the high-end console market in Japan. I love this high-end console market, okay? Because people are running around going, oh, what about Nintendo? What about Nintendo? Well, where was that energy when the CMA and Sony first brought this shit up? Okay. It was argued way back under Brazil that Nintendo isn't really a part of the same market as Xbox and PlayStation. Brazil, Cade, they shot that down. They're like, Nintendo is very much a part of the market, and the fact that they don't have Call of Duty, it's proof you don't need Call of Duty. And so that was their reasoning. But others, like the CMA, have said the Nintendo doesn't really compete in that level. And they've said it for a couple of reasons, to be fair. Number one, they said in Microsoft's own internal documents, Microsoft doesn't compare itself against Nintendo to the same extent it does against PlayStation. That was something there. And then the CMA looks at it and says, look, the Switch is not capable of running things like Call of Duty. It offers, a different class as far as technically, right? It's offering you games at a different level. You're not getting like 4K 60 out of the Switch. I think that's a poor argument because I don't think that's the way the majority of the gaming market looks at things. Obviously, there is a segment of the market that's focused on high-end PCs or on, like Series X, PS5, where they are very much about, AAA, top-of-the-line graphics, 4K. They want fidelity. They want performance. They want that technical high-end. But that's not the large chunk of the audience, right? Of people playing games, especially not when you want to look at gaming as a whole, and you want to look at all consoles, everything on PC, mobile, all of that. Graphics are not the top. When you look at something like Animal Crossing or Mario Kart and the numbers those games put up, obviously, AAA photorealistic graphics are not the top of the list for a lot of people. And so in that sense, when people are deciding where to spend their money and where to spend their time, Nintendo is very much in the conversation. But since the CMA first brought that up, and Sony in their response was like, yes, very good, we agree, Nintendo doesn't really count, it's us and Xbox. Since that got brought up, I think it's only fair that Xbox ran with it and started making the argument of like, well, look, worldwide, here's how we stack up. If you remove all the other players and you just say Xbox versus PlayStation, here's where we land. And it's not a great look, right? PlayStation is dominating. So yeah, that came up in this trade deal. Now, I want to point out, everyone is reporting this as though Microsoft is like Phil Spencer and Satya are like crouched down behind the chairs of these Congress people, like rubbing their hands together, like, yes, grill them. And I don't know if that's the case. Okay, we're talking about, these are economies negotiating. This is not like corporations. As big as Microsoft and Sony are, you're talking about the largest economy in the world having a negotiation with the third largest in the world, right? Because isn't it? I think it's the U.S., China, Japan, and then like maybe Germany next. But anyway, Japan is like has like third highest GDP. This is a huge country in its own right, talking to the United States, which has the largest economy. These are billions and trillions of dollars and huge repercussions getting discussed. And so I do think it, I don't know. Maybe Microsoft did, slip a Starbucks gift card under the desk of, or, under the door of every congressperson's office door. But I think it's just as likely that if you're a congressperson involved in the negotiations with another country on trade, you have your aides doing research on like what's going on with like corporate affairs between our countries. And if somebody goes, well, currently the FTC is looking into this Microsoft acquisition, the acquisition of two American, a merger between two American companies, and not a merger, an acquisition, and a Japanese company is like the main complainant, and honestly, in a lot of ways, the sole complainant. I know Google has their issues, but fuck Google. Sorry, YouTube. I do think that there's a potential that one of those senators, right, that they look at that, right? Like I said, they have their aide, just imagine you're a congressperson, you're getting ready, you're doing your research, and your aide comes in and goes, sir, you should look at this. What do you have there, bozo? And that's not an insult. The aide's name is Gregory Q. Bozo. And Bozo says, hey, I've got, this American company. They're trying to acquire this other company to compete. And this Japanese company's the big complainant. And you look at it and you go, can I say 98%? Okay, well, let's bring that up. Let's just stick it to them. It's just like something to bring up, something to kind of push Japan on, maybe play a little hardball, do a little negotiating. I don't know if it's going to lead to anything. Maybe something, I think it's going to lead to something like cursory. Like Japan's going to look into it. I just can't see it leading to anything truly impactful. Obviously, what they're bringing up is it seems like Sony is paying developers or kind of blocking Xbox out of getting a lot of Japanese exclusives. I'd be curious to see what comes of it. Because at the end of the day, I do think exclusive, as long as there's a console market and these companies are selling you consoles at low margins, or in some cases they're selling them to you at a loss, they are going to need exclusives to help get you into the ecosystem, right? So I don't see any government stepping in and being like, exclusivity has to end. So I don't know what could come of this. Maybe there's a case to be made that that Sony is boxing them out of, if they're stopping studios in Japan from even hearing Microsoft's offers. That'd be one thing. I doubt that though. That'd be like too nefarious. So I don't think this is going anywhere, but I do think it's going to get looked at. There's probably going to be some meetings. It's probably a little bit of a headache for Sony. No company of that size wants government regulators turning their eye to them and kind of looking at well, what are you up to? What are your practices? Nobody wants that, right? Citizens don't want that. Nobody wants the government kind of looking into your business, what's going on over here? What are you doing? So I do think that's probably going to be a little bit of a pain point for them. Thought it was interesting. Yeah, just really disagree with the painting of everyone acting like Sony and Microsoft are pulling the strings for these governments. I think they're just arguing their case in front of regulators. But I think a lot of times these governments are, this negotiation is far bigger. When you look at the impact of this deal they're signing on electric vehicle batteries, right? And you look at the U.S. and Japan's focus on, I gotta remember to look at the camera, guys. Remind me. When you think about the focus that the U.S. and Japan are having with this deal on kind of getting tighter control or more secured access to some of these rare earth minerals or necessary components to manufacture a lot of this tech. I think that's in the end, that's a bigger deal than where Call of Duty goes. So, I think grain of salt, I don't know how much sway Microsoft really has over the state of affairs in the Japan-US trade negotiations. While we're on the subject of Xbox, they are dropping the $1 Game Pass promotion deal where you could sub for $1 and grab, like, sometimes in some cases like 3 months or a month, you get access just for $1. That's gone. It's going to be $10 or $15 for Ultimate. If you have a PC or you pay for Xbox Live, I don't know why you wouldn't do Ultimate, because Xbox Live is $5 a month if you're buying it annually. That comes included in Game Pass Ultimate, plus you get cloud, PC access, perks. So if you're out there and you're like already paying for Xbox Live, I recommend just going to Ultimate if you're interested. The $10 tier, I guess, would be for someone who's not interested in live, not interested in cloud, not interested in playing on, like, say, like a PC or a laptop. I do Ultimate, a game share with a buddy, but I play xCloud a decent amount on my phone. Definitely make use of it on my laptop, and then the Xbox. So it comes pretty nicely for me. The perks are not. I haven't really found it to be worth it. Every now and then you'll get thrown a bone, like here's like a few months of Discord Nitro, or like here's a sub to Spotify or Apple. Oh, I do got to say I did. They offered 6 months free on Spotify, and I'd been an Apple Music guy. I stopped Apple Music and did 6 months of Spotify just to see, because, hey, Game Pass is going to give me 6 months free. I haven't looked back. Switched over to Spotify, really enjoyed it, loved it. I missed some of the curation. I liked, like Apple used to have like the curated, I'm sure they still do, but like Josh Homme did like kind of like a little show and like curated some music, and like I would tune into like Lil Wayne's programming on there sometimes. That was pretty cool. But Spotify really is killing it with a lot of what they do. I switched over. My fiance and I are actually now on the duo plan. It's like 2 people. It's like $14. You each get a Spotify account. That's a nice deal for us. We switched over. So that was actually a perk I used. Other than that, I've used some like Halo gun skins they throw in there, and that's really about it. A lot of it's like currency for free-to-play games that I don't play. Like, it's none of the what I would consider like the really hot free-to-play games. You're not getting any like Rocket League currency or anything from like, like Warzone or Fortnite or anything like that. It's like, here's a dragon for like Century of Ashes or whatever, right? Just games like I don't know anyone who's playing. So there's that, but I do think xCloud, Xbox Live, or Gold, xCloud, the PC usage, to me, that all makes Ultimate worth it there. But I think this is the price increase everybody was afraid of. People were saying like, oh, they could increase the price. And this is kind of that, right? Like, no more promotion, right? I think this is a statement of like, hey, it's been a few years of giving out this promotion. They've got somewhere between 25 and 29 million users, right? Reports differ. I think the last we got from Microsoft was 25 million. But in one of the responses to the CMA, Sony said that Microsoft has 29 million users. So it's somewhere in there, 25 to 29 million last reported. I think with those numbers, and as they look at the lineup they have coming, this is presumably going to be the year Xbox finally figures out how to put games out at a pretty decent clip. They've been struggling with that, I think. I don't think they have no games, but I do think it's been very apparent they have not been able to consistently put out games of a high caliber at the same rate that Sony or Nintendo are able to put out. And honestly, at the same rate that a lot of other big AAA publishers are able to put games out. But that should be turning around this year, right? We've got Minecraft Legends, Redfall, Forza Motorsport, Starfield. If those start to come out, that could start to pad out what they have, in addition to, the third-party deals they're putting out with Game Pass. Hellblade 2, the rumor is that could be coming out for like the holidays. I don't know. I hope so. It's been a minute. Like, it's time for that game to come out, I feel. A lot of people say, hey, we want to give the devs time, give them time. They need as much time as to make a good product. And like, I agree. Don't rush development on games, but at the same time, when you buy a console, it lasts for a generation, right? Like, consoles last 7 years, 6, 7, 8 years, right? Like, you want to be playing, you want a steady drip of games coming out. And at a certain point, I do think time management matters, right? You can take all the time you need, but you can't, Xbox can't be like, every game we make takes 7 or 8 years to complete, right? Or 6 years. some of these games, it's like, why did this take 6 years? I understand some of these other ones, but when you look at like the turnaround time for some of these other games, like, you know, God of War 2018 to Ragnarok, like pretty good turnaround, you know, and you look at Horizon having sequels and Spider-Man 2 dropping, and like, where are the sequels from Xbox teams? So hopefully we see more than just the delayed games from last year coming out this year. Hopefully there's some other stuff. I have a feeling they're using this time to push everything back and try to get some more quality, but like, I'd really like to see some fucking games on my Xbox. Let's go. So there's that. Yeah, I don't think it's that big of a deal though that they're dropping the dollar promotion. Obviously, it was a stunt to get eyes on the service. They got 29 million pairs of eyes on the service, plus everyone else who's kind of circling. And with things like Starfield coming out, you're gonna pay the price or you're not, right? Like, I think when you start to have games like that, like we got Redfall, we got Starfield, we got Forza, like if you won't jump into Game Pass, you know, at the $10 or $15 level for one of those games, you're not going to jump in, right? Like when you look at what they have, the lineup, obviously there are people who aren't going to be into those games, but I think broadly speaking, if they can't get a full price Game Pass sub this year with the games they have dropping, they're probably not going to get it from those users, right? And so I think that's the idea of like, we don't need to offer a deal right now because we have very compelling content that's going to be consistently dropping. When you look, especially when you look at how many updates they have for games, right? Like Sea of Thieves, or last month, right? Sea of Thieves, Forza 5. What else? There's another Xbox game that had a big update, Halo, at the start of the month. Like they're updating these games, having these big pushes. Hopefully there's going to be more consistent content coming to Halo. Sea of Thieves continues to be like a force that just keeps growing, and I feel like the popularity is just going to get bigger year over year. That game has a lot of legs. It's turned out. It's really turned itself around and become something. Forza Horizon 5 remains awesome. Can't wait to see what they're doing with Fable. But yeah, I think Game Pass is starting to put stuff out, and they don't need to offer deals anymore. Speaking of putting... That was my dog trying to get in. He doesn't know. He doesn't know we're live on air. But speaking of putting out content, let's talk about the opposite, taking away content, because this is insane. Arc 2 delayed till like the end of 24. It's supposed to come out this year. It's delayed to so it's going to be like 2025 when it comes out. Like damn near. Okay? But they've delayed it, and they're going to pull the original game public servers. So I think you'll still be able to access like private servers, but they're going to pull the public servers. They're just going to be gone. And then they're going to come back with Arc Ascended, just a remaster of the first game in UE5, I believe. But they're going to charge $50 for it. So if you want to get back into the game, you're going to have to get the remaster. It's $50. And this is on PC too. It's going to be bundled. They're calling it the Ultimate Value Bundle. They're going to charge you for $50 for a remaster of the first game that they've taken away. You can't even play the first. You won't even be able to play the first game. You're going to have to buy in to this remaster, which also secures you the second game. Ultimate Value is just twisting the knife. Not cool. And then Multiverses, the fighting game that was like the biggest fighting game launch ever. It was a freemium, free-to-play WB fighter, right? You could Shaggy, Batman, Arya from Game of Thrones, duking it out. Kind of looked a little bit smashy. I never played it, but it launched pretty big, and then it like really fell off. Like last I heard, like a couple months after it launched or whatever, a few months after, like 90% of the player base just gone. They haven't been able to put out content. They haven't been able to stay up to date with it. And yeah, they're struggling. So apparently it was just a beta where people were buying skins and spending money, but now the game's been pulled, and when they come back, you'll have access to all your stuff. But it's like, you can't be, I don't know, you can't be charging people all this stuff and then pull the game so soon and be like, well, it's a beta where you were charging people for cosmetics. I don't know, like that seems like that beta should go right into launch. If you're going to have a beta and charge people and be making cash on cosmetics and in-game purchases, the expectation I think from a lot of people is that you're not going to pull the game. You're just going to, the beta is actually a soft launch, and you're going to, you know, do a full release soon, but not take the game away for an undisclosed amount of time and like, we'll be back with your shit. We'll be back with all the digital tokens and knickknacks you paid real world money for. We'll be back with it. Don't worry. Chill. Don't worry. We'll be back. But I think it goes to show what I was talking about last week with these live service games. They're sticking the landing when they should hit the ground running. They're not ready. They're not ready to have consistent content out. It's insane to me. These companies are big enough, and the publishers behind them have enough experience now looking at the industry and looking at what's out there and what other games are doing to know you need to be ready. You need to have a pipeline. You need to have gas in the tank. You need to have reserves. You need reserves. You need stuff ready to go. Where, hey, if you hit a snag or development's taking a long time, you have something else ready where you're putting something out monthly, quarterly at the least, right? Like, I think if you had a live service game in every 90 days, you were putting something out, I think you'd be able to maintain people. You'd be able to maintain a player base. You'd be able to maintain interest. You'd be able to keep the cash register chinging, okay? But this whole drip feeding people stuff, it's ridiculous. It's got to stop. And I'm kind of glad in a way that they lost their player base and had to kind of pull this, not because I'm glad this got taken away from people, but I'm glad that they're realizing like, oh, it's not sustainable. All of our player base left because we're not providing content. These companies have got to realize if you want to do live service could work, but it's only going to work for the whales, for these big games that are willing to put in the resources and time and dev work to have consistent content coming out. That may mean some of these games need to sit and wait and go gold, but not release. Build up all your DLC content, build up all the releases, the new maps. Get yourself a head start, right? So then you can you can release the game and you can be feeding stuff out, and the stuff you're building is for way down the road, right? But this whole it seems like they're working down to the bone, right? Down to the minute releasing stuff. And it's either resulting in poor quality stuff that's getting released, or it's resulting in super, super slow, agonizingly slow drip feeds of, piecemeal content. And that's why these games aren't surviving when people could be playing things like Fortnite, Apex, Warzone, these other games that are putting out content at a more consistent clip. And when you look at what some of these other games are doing, you look at like Halo Forge, is small potatoes compared to what Unreal Editor and Fortnite is going to do. As more and more games start coming out where communities are building games, this is only going to lead to Fortnite being able to maintain their player base and maintain engagement for even longer, and time is limited for gamers. So as these big games that are not only willing to put in the resources from their own teams and put out content, but they're going to have their community building content, that is going to be that is a mountain for these smaller teams to tackle. So unless some of these bigger publishers or these first party platforms want to put in the resources and give their teams the ability to compete with some of these giants, then you're going to see live service games continue to fail. Betas continue to hit big and be the zeitgeist for a month and then vanish and go away, and the player base just dwindles because there's nothing to keep it fresh. There's nothing to keep eyeballs on it. I mean, we live in like the, YouTube Shorts, TikTok video era of humanity. People's attention span is like, it's not. You have to make these games with content pipelines ready to go. All right. So that's kind of my rant there on that. I just realized I do have one viewer. What's going on, one viewer? This is a channel that normally 0 views. So you have increased my views live by 100%. So huge shout out to you. Thanks for dropping in where I rant about the news and stuff. But we have reached the end of the episode, which is, hey, this is the longest episode I've ever done. And I started it off at the top by saying there wasn't a lot of news this week, and yet there was enough news that I was irritated by to get going, right, and take off with it. So that's the show. Thanks for tuning in. Anyone who watches this later on VOD Appreciate that as well. If you enjoyed the content, please hit the like button. Go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss any other content. I do post sporadically some other videos outside of live, so keep a lookout for that. Other than that, I really appreciate everybody who watches this, and to my one live viewer, thanks for tuning in. That's all we got. Peace.